Something later on we talk about a player control foul, which means if I've got the ball and I run over you and you're in a legal defensive position, the foul's on me. Well, for an airborne shooter, that term is important because in high school, even though the shooter has released the ball on the shot and the ball's gone, we always put the ball back in the shooter's hands if there's contact, if the shooter hadn't returned to the floor. So the shooter's coming in, blah, 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 they release the shot, they're in the air, you're a legal defender, and the shooter runs over you, you're going to hear player control foul. When we get to the definition of player control, it's going to say a player in control of the ball. And you're going to say in your mind, Hank can be in control of the ball, they've released the ball on the shot, the ball is gone. And there's another part of Rule 4 that will say possession ends when the shot's released, except on an airborne shooter. So it cleans up who the foul is on. If I'm shooting and I'm in the air and I have not returned to the floor and there's a foul on the back end of this try, then the rule book puts that ball back in my hands. And if the foul is on me because you were legal, we have foul, player control foul, ball the other way, no basket. If the foul's on you, depending on whether it goes, we score it or we shoot two, and we've got a block, even though the ball has been released. Now, once I return to the floor, now it becomes a pretty simple block of charge. It's no longer player control because the airborne shooter has returned to the floor. Everybody got that? It's important that you, it's pretty clear, but it gets confusing. So, you may watch other games where that's not true. But in high school, an airborne shooter, we always put that ball until the player returns, the offensive player returns to the floor in the hands of the shooter, whether it's released or not. Pretty simple. Alternating possession error. In high school, there's only one jump ball in regulation. Then there's a jump ball for every overtime. I say that because it's important that once you get into several overtimes, it's easy to start using the arrow for the multiple overtime situation. I've done it. Everybody was happy. And when I got home, I realized, holy crap, we had 4 overtimes. And I didn't throw that sucker up twice. Once to start the game, once to start the first overtime. After that, we just went by the arrow. If they're happy, I'm happy, but I was wrong. I'll never forget that. Don't make that mistake once. But in high school ball, we throw the ball at the start, and then we start it. If it's overtime, every overtime we throw it up. The alternating possession error, and I'm gonna tell you this, the easy way to remember it. This is one of those what-if moments. Because in your mind, once I finish the statement, you're gonna go, how about this? We set the alternating possession arrow based on whichever team gets the first possession, period. You can sit here until the cows come home and dream up ways to get this position. It's tapped by the jumper, one team catches the ball. There's a foul on the circle, one team gets the ball out of bounds. There's a technical foul for somebody being changed in the lineup before the game starts. And somebody's gonna shoot 2 and get the ball. The ball goes out of bounds off the tip. Somebody gets the ball. We don't care how the first person gets the ball. The first team to get possession of the ball, no matter how they get it, the other team gets the arrow. That's all you need to know. The classic example is this. We throw it up, it's batted to the sidelines, I go over, I'm racing to get the ball, I bat the ball back in bounds, the opponent catches my bat back in bounds. I batted it back in bounds.
No control though.
Key statement, no control, I batted it back. He caught it, I touched it, he caught it. First possession, my arrow. Same play, ball's going out of bounds. I race over. I catch the ball, throw the ball back in over my head because I'm headed out of bounds. The same opponent catches the ball. I caught it. Possession's mine. He caught my pass back in. He gets the arrow. It's an easy play to miss it because everybody's going to say, holy cow, blue got the ball, even though white threw it back in. Blue got it, white's arrow. We set the arrow by the first possession. So all we have to know to set the arrow correctly for the first time, which will then be effective for the rest of regulation, is who got the first possession of the game, not how they got it. We don't care how they got it. Doesn't matter how they got it. Like I said, it could be 2 technical free throws and we hand them the ball out of bounds to throw in. That's still the first possession. Everybody cool with that? So when you start to play, what you do is, once we throw that sucker up and we get into front court, no matter how we got there, throw in out of bounds or jump ball or whatever, everybody in the crew should make a mental note of what was the first possession, what should the arrow be? Kind of glance over that and make sure they set that arrow correctly. Without getting too advanced, you don't need to stop the game right then, but the first time you have the opportunity to communicate with the table, let's say there's a ball out of bounds or foul or travel, so if something happens where we have to stop the game, don't get past that point without going over the table and making that arrow correctly. Because if you don't do that, then later on in the game, we're actually giving the ball by the arrow to the wrong team, and now we got a whole different set of stuff we have to know. Because it should have been white's ball, but we gave it to blue, but blue got the possession, and you just don't want to go there. So it's extremely important as a crew, once we get into that game, to everybody kind of check that arrow and make sure we're right. If we're not right, get it straight. Pretty simple.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So say you have a tip on the jump and both teams are racing for the ball and it's tipped out of bounds kind of simultaneously.
Okay.
Do you re-jump it?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. But we changed, now we're talking about how do we get into the first possession. The question was, what happens off the tip if the ball goes out of bounds and we can't tell who the ball was off of? First of all, we re-jump it. We re-jump it with the people closest to the ball, not the original jumpers. So if you and I are trying to get the ball and we don't know which one of us touched it, when we come back, you and I are going to jump it. In high school, though, we always go to the center circle. We don't jump it at the end closest to where that ball went out of bounds. We come back to the center circle. Any time that went off the clock stays off the clock. We jump it between the 2 people that were closest to the ball, and then we just kind of reset ourselves mentally to say, okay, who gets the first possession? So, and until the possession, in this case, and that's a great question, until we have a possession, we can't set the arrow. See? Really? Yeah.
And Jerry, let me get clear. It doesn't matter whether those 2 closest to the ball were the ones who touched it?
Doesn't matter. We can't tell. They're gonna, no, well, they may not have touched it. We just can't tell who got it.
Yeah, okay.
We're gonna jump in between those 2.
Guys tip it, ball goes out of bounds, 2 guys happen to be over by the ball, but don't touch it.
We're gonna jump it, yeah.
We're gonna jump those 2 guys?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay? Good, great question. All right, over to, and as you read rule, that number 3 there, you got location of the ball, section 4. Balls which in contact with the player or the court is in backcourt of either the ball or player. Let me just say, this is probably, Jerry, where's the ball that is? Right there. We'll do this very quickly. Okay? Sideline, end line, division line, not half court line. That doesn't make any sense. If this was the front court and this was the back court, in basketball, what you need to know is the lines are out. So if anybody knows volleyball, the lines are in. You're out of bounds in basketball if you're on the line. So if this is Blue's front court, back court is the entire division line, and front court starts on the front edge of this line in front court. If we're going this way, the entire back court, including the line, is back court, and front court doesn't start until we get into front court. And all this is going to say, I'm pretty sure, I haven't read it in a year, But all this is going to say is we're going to perceive that ball to be wherever it was in last touch with a human being or wherever that ball was in the air. A ball which is in contact with the player or the court is in back court if either the ball or the player either is touching the back court, including that line, period. So in other words, we have to get the ball into front court before it's in front court. They may be coming up and step on that division line, they're still in back court. They may step on the division line and step over the division line with another foot and have another foot completely in front court. They're still in back court. So we consider them to be where they were in last touch with the floor. Number two, excuse me, the ball which is in contact with the player or the court is in front court if neither the ball or the player is touching back court. Well, that's kind of the antithesis of what we just said. If they're not touching the division line and they're not touching anything in back court, they're in front court. Now, I think it's probably important that I say a ball in the air or a player in the air is always considered to be where they were last in on the floor. And in fact, that's true with the three-point circle. It's true inbounds or out of bounds. In fact, I probably won't even read the rest of that because it's pretty simple. When I'm airborne, you put me where I last touched something. So if I go shoot a three-point basket and I have the ability to, well, some of y'all probably are so young you don't even know who Michael Jordan is. But let's just say, I hate to say that. He wasn't even a player before I retired. But then, the point is this. If we have the ability to be really athletic and we jump from the outside the three-point line and we're even with the foul line before we shoot, we can have that as a three-point basket because we are perceived as being in touch with the floor behind the arc. We have to touch the arc or inside. If we're out of bounds and the ball is going out of bounds, if we're in bounds, we may jump in the air maybe almost into the bleachers, but as long as we haven't touched something out of bounds, we're still in bounds, as is the ball. If we're out of bounds and the ball comes back, if I'm throwing it in, you see this play in middle school a lot. Middle school kid will throw it in and the defender will hit it back at him. And then the person who threw it in catches it. The first thing you perceive is, well, the defender hit the ball back. That's who caused it to be out of bounds, which is an untrue statement. The ball's out of bounds by the player who caught it, and they won't understand that either. Because they'll go like, hey, they hit it. Well, that's true, but they were in bounds. You caused it to be out of bounds because you're out of bounds. So that's what that rule says. And it should never confuse you at all. Ball location number 7, I do need to point a couple of things out. Any questions on that? Okay, I want to
go back to the back court.
Yeah.
So to make it clear, the player's not in the front court until both feet in the ball is over.
That is exactly a true statement.
Yeah,
in fact, the dribbler, let's just say this is a division line. I can come up and I'm dribbling. I can dribble in the front court. I can dribble backwards in the back court. I can step in the front court and continue to dribble in back court. And we only got a 10-second count going, so I'm being, you can take me for what I'm worth. I'm not trying to make a crazy play. I'm just trying to show you exactly what you asked. I can then step and straddle the line and dribble back and forth. And the only thing I've got is that 10-second count going that I've got to get the ball and touched in front court by. I haven't done anything wrong. In fact, the crazy part, and I'm going to put my hand on this for balance, but the crazy point is I can dribble in the front court. I can lift the foot up that's in back court. Now, the only thing my body is touching is front, but 2 feet haven't touched in front court. At this point, if I step back and I step on the line in the back court, I got nothing. That's the craziest play. I hope I never have it. I've never had it yet. I don't want it, but that's the correct interpretation. So in the case of the dribbler, now, that's only the dribbler. If I'm standing straddling the line, and you throw me the ball, and I lift up that foot, I'm in front court. And if I dribble that sucker, or I put my foot back down on the line or behind it, that's a backcourt violation and we're going the other way. So in the case of the dribbler, the ball in both feet, in the case of all other players, once they establish front court status, they can't cause it to be go in the backcourt or be the first to touch it. Pretty simple rule. And when we get to backcourt, we got a couple other examples that are plays that you'll need to know about. But that's a great point, a great question. Everybody cool with that? Hope you never had that play. Number 7. You'll hear the ball at the disposal of a player a lot. And we need to know, what does that mean? That means when you hear the ball's at the disposal of a player, that means physically we put that, just like the airborne shooter rule, physically we put that ball in that thrower-in's hands, or the free thrower's hands, or whoever we're putting that ball at disposal at. It means they should have been there, they weren't there. If we put the ball on the floor, which is what we'll say here, that ball is at their disposal, which means all counts are now active. The time frame they've got to release a throw-in is active, take a free throw shot in 10 seconds active. It's considered to be in their hands, they just aren't present. Okay, and that's what this is going to say. The ball is at the disposal of a player when it's handed to them, either the throw or the free throw. It's caught by a player having had it bounced to him. And there are times when you can bounce the ball to a player that isn't a free throw. I know the common one is, the league's administering a free throw and they bounce the ball to the shooter. But there are times on the sideline that when you put the ball in play, it's okay to bounce the ball to the thrower in. On the end line, to me, it's always good. I'm old school, but you can't ever go wrong handing the ball to a player on the end line. It's just too much can happen. Normally on the sideline, it's just as business as usual. You bounce it, nobody gives you any stuff, and they can throw it in. But I don't like to bounce the ball to a player on the end line. It's not illegal. I just don't like to do it. It's caught by the player after they bounce to him. It's placed on the floor. I'll make a comment about that in a second. And it's available after a goal, which means that you shoot, it's cleared the basket, and for some reason now I'm playing games and I don't pick that ball up. At whatever point you feel like I've had ample opportunity to pick that sucker up and get out of bounds with it, it's considered to be at the disposal of my team or me. You should begin your count of 5 seconds. And some of you played when you had to have 5 seconds to have it touched in bounds. That's no longer the rule. It's 5 seconds to release the ball on the throw-in. So the count's going. As long as they release it, then the count stops. Now your 10-second, if your backcourt count starts to get it up the floor, but it doesn't have to be touched. That's a whole separate rule. It has to be touched, or that's a violation for not throwing it into a player on the floor, but that doesn't involve the count. The count is a whole separate issue. So if that sucker's available and they're playing games with you, from an operation standpoint, it's always good maybe the first time to instruct that player, hey, you need to get the ball and throw it in. There's a term that I'll teach you, DPS-ITG. I'll give you every word except the S. You can figure that one out for yourself. Don't put in the game. So if you want to show that you know that rule and you got a middle school game or JV game, they're lucky to absolutely not be raising their hands to potty, you can call the rule. But it's better to say, hey, 45, you need to pick that thing up, man. You can't let it bounce around. Or blow the whistle and say, look, don't make me wait for you guys anymore. I need to start my count. You're going to lose the basketball. You got to get that ball and throw it in when he goes through the basket. And then if you do it again, you got to call it on because they need to learn the rules. But you're not out there to make the kids feel bad. Varsity's a whole lot different. They're supposed to know that rule. Coaches are supposed to know that rule.
So what would be ample time? So say
1,001, 1,002.
And
then you got to look too, because sometimes like the lower you go, there's one specific player that can only throw the ball in.
Well, like a full court press, and then they're setting up the press break. Are you gonna?
The first time I'm probably going to let them go 5 or 6 seconds if they're a JV or a middle school team, because I know that 30 is the only person can throw it in for whatever reason. The coach don't trust anybody else. But after that, I'm probably the first time I can get to 30, I'm going to say, look, I know you're the one to throw it in, but you guys got to get the ball in bounds, and I got to start a count. And if they mess up, they mess up. You got to use a little common sense.
Hey Jerry, what about, you come out of a timeout and you tell the team to come out, sometimes I've seen the ref.
We'll talk about that.
Okay.
We'll talk about that in a little while.
All right.
But it's at their possession when you, that's a whole separate situation, but resumption of play procedures will be used at periods and during timeouts. And that involves, at times, putting the ball on the floor. I was going to say, before I made the comment about the younger teams, we don't want, I can't say never, but we just don't want to put the ball on the floor. It's bad. I mean, I might have done it once, in all my years once. I mean, somebody has just got to be in a complete brain lock situation not to want the ball. No team wants to not get the ball because they don't have enough sense to throw it in. So if they're, lollygagging, I mean, if we're working together and it's because the team hasn't come out of the huddle, I really have to think about, have you or I done a good job of getting them out of the huddle before we ever put it on the floor? And then we got to look at one another. And do we both agree that it's okay to put this thing on the floor? I got to look at you because maybe you were talking to the scores table. Maybe you were talking to the coach. And all of a sudden, I just put the ball on the floor because I'm tired of waiting. I look up and you got your back to me because you're communicating with somebody. So there's lots of reasons. Hardly ever do I see a team that actually intentionally just refuses to get the basketball. They'll race over, they'll do a lot of stuff. But if we've done our job of getting them in the process of ending whatever the delay is, then they're going to be there. But what we were talking about there is what do we do if we don't? And we'll talk about that in a minute. I don't want to send you out there and have a situation where you have a middle school game and there's 7 times during the game you put the ball on the floor because they haven't shown up. Because actually, later on we'll go over a rule where the first time's a delay, the second time's a technical foul, and there it really gets sticky. And there you just DPS ITG. I mean, it's just not good. You don't want to do that. You just don't want to. Okay, basket choice. Team's own basket is the one that they try to throw it in. Why is it important to know that? Because it's times that they go the wrong way. And later on, when we get to that, we'll talk about what happens if you go the wrong way off the get-go, but that's the choice. That's your basket. You practice when you get to the gym at the one farther. Again, the whole rule was you get to choose. You no longer get to choose. Home team management sets up the benches. First half in high school, you shoot opposite your bench, period. You don't get to choose. You don't get to choose where you sit. You sit where the home team puts you. So again, these are a little bit of an antiquated rules, but I guess somewhere in the United States, there's still a situation where somebody comes into a gym and says, we don't want our people sitting on the first row of the bleachers behind the home crowd because we can't hear, and we're going to sit on the end line. That the book dictates. Come in, home team, Verana's here, Highland Springs is here. Highland Springs shoots in front of Verana in the first half, Verana shoots and then we switch, period. Okay?
I have a question about that though.
Yeah.
I know in high school when I was coaching, is it the home team's left side, right side is visitors, or does it really matter?
Well,
I know some schools, they ain't real picky about that.
yeah, the home team management decides that. Whoever the management, the athletic director, or whoever sets that gym up, and the coach knows, like Godwin guys sit at the right side of the bench looking at the table. When you got the girls sit on the left side. Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe, I don't know. I can't figure that. I got more things to figure out than why they sit where they sit. I just need to know that the home team, the visitor sits where they're told to sit, and we warm up after their bench. Period. Period. Okay. Team change basket for the second half. Now, number 4 is the mistake deal. Okay, so we come out, and I know that one of the things that I do before I throw the ball up is I'll always ask the 2 centers, are y'all headed in the right direction? Because I only know one rule. First of all, it kind of breaks the tension if there is tension. Secondly, it kind of gives them something to laugh at a little bit. And it kind of gets me engaged in them. But in reality, all I'm doing is I'm making sure that, yes, when I throw this thing up, Verana's going that way and Highland Springs is going that way. Okay, I want to make sure that, because If they don't, then I've got egg on my face. But there's a rule that covers that. The rule is this: if we let them go the wrong way to start the game, and that's important, then the baskets count for those teams that score them until we make the direction correct. So if Hollow Springs is shooting in their own basket or in Verano's basket, Verano shoot, if it's 8-6 before we figure out that they've been going backcourt every other time, I mean, there's so much stuff going on here, it's crazy, but it's just, everybody's happy, we got a flow of the game, and then all of a sudden somebody realizes, hold it, why are we shooting in front of us? It's the first period. At that point, we stop the game and we make it right. From that point on, the baskets count for whose basket the ball goes into. So if a kid shoots at the wrong end, it becomes the other team's basket. Okay? Now there's one exception to that. I don't want to get too far ahead, but it is important that we tie this in. Since part of the definition of a legal try is a legal try has to be at your own basket. If a kid shoots at the wrong basket and is fouled, and later we'll learn that when the whistle blows, the ball becomes dead on a non-legal try. It's at your basket, the ball remains alive till it ceases the opportunity to go in. But if it's at the other team's basket, because it's not a legal try, when the whistle blows, the ball's dead. If that ball goes in the basket, we don't have a basket. And we don't have a shooting foul because it wasn't a legal try. But if we have a common foul, it becomes part of the process. Every foul is a foul. But we're not going to shoot a shooting foul if you're shooting at the wrong end. We're not going to allow a basket to score if the whistle is blown. We're simply going to give it to the team that was fouled out of bounds as if they had been fouled on a pick. Everybody cool with that? And like I said, up until the point where we discover, holy cow, we've let them go the wrong way, then we're going to allow the points to count for whoever scored them. After that, we're going to count the points for whoever's basket the ball goes into. Any confusion on that? Another reason to ask, are we headed in the right direction? Another reason, and you'll learn mechanically, the outside official, okay, the U1 always has their hand up, and they're kind of surveying the situation to make sure that before the R1, the referee throws the ball, I got volleyball terms in my head. The referee throws the ball up, that we do have them going in the right direction.